stick around and see how they do. In the town there were 2 mutes, and they were always together. Early every morning they would come out from the house where they lived and walked arm in arm down the street to work. The 2 friends were very different. The one who always steered the way was an obese and dreamy Greek. In the summer he would come out wearing a yellow or green polo shirt stuffed sloppily into his trousers in front and hanging loosely behind. When it was colder, he wore over this a shapeless gray sweater. His face was round and oily, with half-closed eyelids, and his lips curved in a gentle, stupid smile. The other mute was tall. His eyes had a quick, intelligent expression. He was always immaculate and very soberly dressed. Every morning the 2 friends walked silently together until they reached the main street of town. Then when they came to the certain fruit and candy store, they paused for a moment on the sidewalk outside. The Greek, Spiros Antonopoulos, worked for his cousin, who owned this fruit store. His job was to make the candies and sweets, uncrate the fruits, and keep the place clean. The thin mute, John Singer, nearly always put his hand on his friend's arm and looked for a second into his face before leaving him. Then after this, goodbye Singer crossed the street and walked on. Okay, sorry, I thought that was it. Along the jewelry store where he worked as a silverware engraver. In the late afternoon, the friends would meet again. Just stop there. Sounds like a pretty good day. Thank you.
Oh, the Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss. Congratulations, today is your day. You're off to great places. You're off and away. You have brains in your head. You have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. You're on your own and you know what you know, and you are the guy who'll decide where to go. You'll look up and down streets, look them over with care. About some you will say, I don't choose to go there. With your head full of brains and your shoes full of feet, you're too smart to go down any not so good street. And you may not find any you'll want to go down. In that case, of course, you'll head straight out of town. It's opener there in the wide open air. Out there, things can happen, and frequently do, to people as brainy and footsy as you. And when things start to happen, don't worry, don't stew, just go right along. You'll start happening too. Oh, the places you'll go. You'll be on your way up. You'll be seeing great sights. You'll join the high flyers who soar to high heights. You won't lag behind because you'll have the speed. Wherever you fly, you'll be best of the best. Wherever you go, you will top all the rest. Except when you don't, because sometimes you won't. I'm sorry to say so, but sadly, it's true that bang-ups and hang-ups can happen to you. Hang in there.
Fried Green Tomatoes at the Whistle Stop Cafe by Fanny Flagg. The Weems Weekly, Whistle Stop, Alabama's Bulletin. June 12, 1929, cafe opens. The Whistle Stop Cafe opened last week, right next door to me at the post office, and owners Iggy Threadgood and Ruth Jameson said business has been good ever since. Iggy says that for people who know her not to worry about getting poisoned, she is not cooking. All the cooking is being done by 2 colored women, Sipsy and Onzel, and the barbecue is being done by Big George, who is Onzel's husband. If there's anybody that has not been there yet, Iggy says that breakfast hours are from 5:30 to 7:30, and you can get eggs, grits, biscuits, bacon, sausage, ham and red-eye gravy, and coffee for 25 cents. For lunch and supper, you can have fried chicken, pork chops and gravy, catfish, chicken and dumplings, or a barbecue plate, and your choice of 3 vegetables, drink and dessert for 35 cents. And the vegetables are creamed corn, fried green tomatoes, fried okra, collard or turnip greens, black-eyed peas, candied yams, butter beans or lima beans, and pie for dessert. My other half, Wilbur, and I ate there the other night, and it was so good he said he might not ever eat at home again. I wish this were true. I spend all my time cooking for the big lug and so far can't fill him up. By the way, Idgie says that one of her hens laid an egg with a $10 bill in it. Dot Weems. Rose Terrace Nursing Home, Old Montgomery, Alabama. December 15th, 1985. Evelyn Couch had come to Rose Terrace with her husband, Big Ed, who was visiting his mother, Big Mama, a recent but reluctant arrival. Thank you.
Serendipity Market. Sometimes it's the way a leaf falls to the ground, or sometimes it's the slant of the afternoon sun. Or sometimes it's the way the shadows ring around the water's edge. This time it's the appearance of a yellow-green finch in March. Stories are all around. So Mama Inez and Toby, the chocolatey lab, are always watching for signs. Toby and Mama Inez try to follow all the signs and slip into all the stories that they can find. Because then, Mama Inez explains to Roberto and Franz after dinner, because then when we need to balance the world, we know what stories we have and what we can draw from. We know what fits and what goes together. Now, as Mama Inez pulled a fruit crumble from the oven and set it to cool in front of Roberto says, with eyes on dessert, "Know what's available. Now, at least that makes sense." "So," says Franz as he slices the crumble into fourths, "maybe you should tell him just how to become a cloud or an unobtrusive squirrel." "Milk," he says, raising his eyebrow to Roberto. "Yes, please," Roberto says, both to the milk and to the problem of how to become a cloud. "Oh, he already knows," Mama Inez says, as she takes her share of the crumble. "Ah," Roberto sighs, "magic, of course." Toby, who's also having milk on his crumble, licks the bowl with enthusiasm while Mama Inez smiles and echoes Roberto. "Of course, magic."
Thank you. This is a work by Louisa May Alcott, and I like the poem simply because the message, I believe, is so great. A bare brown rock stood up in the sea, the waves at its feet, dancing merrily. A little bubble once came sailing by, and thus to the rock did it gaily cry, "Ho, clumsy brown stone, quick, make way for me. I'm the fairest thing that floats on the sea. See my rainbow robe, see my crown of light, my glittering form, so airy and bright. O'er the waters blue I'm floating away to dance by the shore with foam and spray. Now make way, for the waves are strong and their rippling feet bear me fast along." But the great rock stood straight up in the sea. It looked gravely down and said pleasantly, "Little friend, you must go some other way, for I have not stirred this many a long day. Great billows have dashed and angry winds blown, but my sturdy form is not overthrown. Nothing can stir me in the air and sea. Then how can I move, little friend, for thee?" Then the waves all laughed and their voices sweet, and the seabirds looked from their rocky seat at the bubble gay who angrily cried, while its round cheek glowed with foolish pride, "You shall move for me, and you shall not mock at the words I say, you ugly, rough rock. Be silent, wild birds, while stare you so. Stop laughing, rude waves, and help me go. For I am the queen of the ocean here, and this cruel stone cannot make me fear." Dashing fiercely up with a scornful word, foolish bubble broke, but the rock never stirred. Then the seabirds sitting in their nests, to the little ones leaning on their breasts, "Be not like the bubble, headstrong, rude and vain, seeking by violence your object to gain. And the final words are really nice. So thank you.
This is from the prologue, The Kitchen House by Kathleen Grissom. 1810. There was a strong smell of smoke. New fear fueled me. Now, on the familiar path, I raced ahead, unmindful of my daughter behind me, trying to keep up. My legs were numb, unused to this speed. My lungs felt as though they were scorched. I forbade myself to think I was too late, and I focused all my strength on moving toward home. I pulled to free my long blue skirts from the blackberry brambles that ensnared me, and as I ripped my way out, Ellie caught up to me and she attached herself to my arm, sobbing, trying to hold me back. And though a 7-year-old is no match for a grown woman, she fought fiercely with strength fostered by her own terror. In my frenzy, I pushed her to the ground, and she stared at me with disbelief. "Stay here," I begged, and I raced back down the path until I reached the stream. Halfway over, I slipped on the river stones, and with a splash, I fell. The cold water shocked me, and for a moment I sat stunned, water bubbling by, until I looked up and I recognized our smokehouse on the other side of the stream. I rose, my skirts soaked and heavy. I scrambled my way across the water by clinging to the jutting rocks, and at the base of the hill, I leaned forward to breathe, gasping for air, and somehow Ellie had reached my side again. This time she clung like a kitten to my wet skirts. I was terrified of what she might see, but it was too late now, so I grasped her hand, and together we crested the bluff, and there I froze. And Ellie saw it too and whimpered. And one massive oak tree stood at the top of the hill, its lush green leaves shading the thick branch that bore the weight of the hanging body.
Pulled out a big, thick one near the center, and then went over to Grandpa, where he was sleeping. "When you wake up, Grandpa, can you read this story to me? Please, please, please." Hearing his grandson's voice, Grandpa woke up. He didn't know where he was. He cleared his throat, rubbed his eyes, and saw his grandson standing there with this book. "That's a pretty big book you have there, son. Why don't you pick out a smaller one and fetch my reading glasses, and I will turn the lamp on." The young man got his grandfather's glasses from the table. He picked up the big book with both hands. Returning it to Grandpa, he said, "Grandpa, I want you to read this one. This is special. Please, please, please." Grandpa put his glasses on and took the big book. He patted the chair where he wanted his grandson to sit, and the boy sat, awkwardly, wiggling back and forth. Grandpa explained, "You got ants in your pants, son?" He reached in the boy's back pocket and pulled the slingshot out along with 4 round rocks about the size of a quarter. He put them on the table next to the lamp. When his grandson settled down, Grandpa held up the big book close.